Hi all, welcome to our rhetorical analysis unit. I want to talk a little bit about rhetoric. What is rhetoric? Rhetoric classically is defined as the art of persuasion. What is rhetoric talks about rhetoric as using language purposefully in order to get something done in the world. And another definition provided by what is rhetoric: something that allows you to formulate ethical reading strategies, but also to invent your own responses to the world. So rhetoric is both an act of consuming information through text, but also an act of creating information through text, and I mean text very generally. Some basic terms and concepts around rhetoric. First, the rhetorical situation. This is very important. The rhetorical situation identifies the relationship among the elements of any communication. And those elements are audience, author, sometimes also referred to as the rhetor, purpose, medium, context, and content. The audience includes the spectators, listeners, readers of a performance, a speech, a reading, or printed material. Depending on the author's or the writer's perception, an audience may be real, so they may actually be sitting in the audience and listening or reading, or invoked, those to whom the writer explicitly writes, or imagined, those who the writer believes will read or hear her work. The author, rhetor, speaker, and writer are the persons or a group of people who compose the text. The purpose of the author is the reason for communicating, the expected or intended outcome. And then the medium is the delivery method, which varies by the type of text. Alphabetic text, for example, written speech, newspaper, editorial, essay, passage from a novel or poetry. Images, for example, TV commercials, advertisements in magazines or on websites. Sound, for example, radio or television commercials, website advertisements or speeches. And multimodal texts like YouTube videos, performances, digital stories, or even this video I am creating for you would be considered a multimodal text. In understanding rhetoric, we also have to understand context. Context is the time, place, public conversation surrounding the text during its original generation and delivery. The text may also be analyzed within a different context, such as how a historical text would be received by its audience today. We also have the claim. The claim is the main idea, thesis, opinion, or belief of an argument that the author must prove. The claim should be debatable and answer the question, what's the point? Support. The statements given to back up the claim are called support. These can take the form of facts, data, personal experience, expert opinion, evidence from other texts or sources, emotional appeals, or other means. The more reliable and comprehensive the support, the more likely the audience is to accept the claim. And then warrant. The warrant is the connection, often unstated and assumed, between the claim and the supporting reason or reasons or support. The warrant is the assumption that makes the claim seem plausible. More specifically, warrants are the beliefs, values, inferences, and/or experience that the writers, speakers assume they share with the audience. If the audience doesn't share the writer's or speaker's assumptions within the text, the argument will not be effective. Next, I want to talk about the rhetorical triangle. Now, the rhetorical triangle is very important for us in this class. It will be the focus of our rhetorical analysis. The elements of the rhetorical situation interact with and influence one another. In learning to write an analysis, it is thus helpful to think about the relationship among these elements within the rhetorical triangle. By doing this, writers will be able to better understand how the elements of each text come together, indeed often overlap, to make an argument or persuade an audience. The first part of the rhetorical triangle is ethos, the authority or credibility of the author. This can refer to any of the following: the actual character of the speaker or the writer, the character of the writer as it is presented in a text, or as a series of ground rules or customs, which are negotiated between speaker, audience, and specific traditions or locations. The speaker must convince the audience of their credibility through the language they use and through the delivery or embodied performance of their speech. Some questions to consider when looking at ethos. Have you looked at what experiences or claims the author or claims to authority qualify this author to speak or write? Have you considered the credibility and moral character of the writer or the speaker? Have you considered the design or appearance of the text you are analyzing? Does it look professional? What can you say about the author based on the appearance of the text alone? The second part is pathos, emotional appeals to the audience to evoke feelings of pity, sympathy, tenderness, or sorrow. The speaker may also want the audience to feel anger, fear, courage, love, happiness, sadness, etc. In what ways can you look at pathos? Have you considered how the author appeals to the emotions of the reader or the viewer? How does the author establish a bond with his audience? How might the author change his strategy if he was trying to establish a bond with a different audience? Have you considered your own personal reaction to the background music of an advertisement, perhaps? What kinds of feelings do the colors that the author uses provoke? What other images in the text provoke an emotional response? Why would the author include these images? Logos is the third. In classical rhetoric, logos is the means of persuasion by demonstration of the truth, real or apparent, the reasons or supporting information used to support a claim, the use of logic or reason to make a claim. Logos can include citing facts and statistics, historical events, and other forms of fact-based evidence. Some things to think about when analyzing logos. How does the author back up his or her argument in this text? Do they incorporate facts, statistics, or numbers? Have you considered how logical the author's argument is? Are the claims the author is making realistic? Does the author consider alternative arguments or counter-arguments? Another point to consider when considering rhetoric and the means or modes of persuasion is kairos. Kairos is the right time to speak or write, the advantageous, the exact, or the critical time, a window of time during which action is most effective. And an example of this might be when Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech was delivered at the right moment in history, in the heat of the civil rights debates. Also, stasis. Literally, stasis is a stand or a resting place in an argument where opponents agree on what the issue is, but disagree on what to do about it. The skilled rhetor, or speaker or writer, is able to move the argument away from stasis. Example: Rhetor A asserts that abortion is murder, and Rhetor B asserts that abortion is not murder. This is the point of stasis. The argument cannot rest here indefinitely. One of these rhetors must get the argument beyond the issue of murder. In our rhetorical analysis papers, we will be focusing specifically on ethos, the ethical claim of the author, or the authority or credibility of the author, pathos, the emotional appeal, and logos, the logical appeal. Thank you very much.